What if a single cyber attack could disrupt an entire nation, not by destroying cities, not by launching missiles, but by shutting down something people depend on every single day? Fuel, no gasoline, no diesel, no supply, and within hours, everything begins to slow down. This is not a theory, it already happened. The attack is known as the Colonial Pipeline incident, and it exposed just how fragile modern infrastructure really is. The Colonial Pipeline is one of the largest fuel pipelines in the United States. It supplies nearly half of the fuel used on the East Coast, transporting gasoline, diesel, and jet fuel across thousands of miles. It is not just a pipeline, it is a lifeline. And in 2021, that lifeline was shut down. Not by a bomb, not by a physical attack, but by ransomware. A cybercriminal group known as DarkSide infiltrated the company's systems. Once inside, they encrypted critical data, effectively locking the company out of its own operations. The response was immediate. The pipeline was shut down, not because the physical infrastructure was damaged, but because the digital systems controlling it could no longer be trusted. And that decision changed everything. Fuel shortages began to spread. Gas stations ran dry. Panic buying increased. Prices surged, all within days. This is what happens when critical infrastructure is disrupted. The effects are not isolated. They ripple outward, across industries, across states, across everyday life. People could not commute. Businesses could not operate normally. Supply chains slowed, and all of it traced back to a single cyber intrusion. This attack revealed something important. The AI World War Y is not just limited to governments. It includes criminal organizations, groups that operate independently, but with capabilities powerful enough to affect entire nations. DarkSide was not a military force, but its impact was strategic, because in the AI war, the line between crime and warfare is blurred. A ransomware attack can create the same disruption as a coordinated strike. The difference is not the outcome, it is the intention. But for those affected, the result is the same. What makes the Colonial Pipeline attack even more significant is how it began. Not with a complex system breach, not with advanced code breaking, but with access, a compromised password, a point of entry. And from there, the attackers moved through the network. This highlights a critical weakness. Even the most important systems can be vulnerable to simple entry points, and once access is gained, control can follow. The Colonial Pipeline incident was widely reported, but what followed was even more important. Investigations, government response, policy discussions. Because this was not just an isolated attack, it was a warning, a demonstration of what is possible. Congress examined the incident. Reports were issued. Officials were warned about the risks facing critical infrastructure across the country. Because if one pipeline could be shut down, others could too. Energy systems, water systems, transportation networks, all connected, all dependent on digital control systems, all potential targets. This is why the Colonial Pipeline attack matters in the context of the AI. It showed that disruption does not require destruction, that control over systems is more important than physical force, that a single point of failure can create nationwide consequences. And perhaps most importantly, it showed how quickly normal life can be affected. There were no sirens, no warnings, no visible signs of conflict, only empty gas stations, rising prices, and growing uncertainty. This is how the invisible war operates, quietly, indirectly, but with real consequences. Because in modern society, infrastructure is everything, and infrastructure depends on systems, and systems can be compromised. That is the reality. The battlefield is no longer distant. It is embedded in everyday life, in energy, in transportation, in supply chains. And once those systems are disrupted, the effects are immediate. The Colonial Pipeline attack was not the largest cyber attack, but it was one of the clearest examples of vulnerability. A moment where the A war became visible, where people felt the impact directly. quickly and where the warning could no longer be ignored. Because if something as essential as fuel can be disrupted so easily, then nothing is truly out of reach. And that is the most dangerous realization of all. Because in this war, the most powerful attacks are not the ones that destroy everything at once. They are the ones that disrupt just enough to make everything else start falling apart. And when that happens, it does not feel like war. It feels like systems are failing until you realize they are not failing. They are being controlled and overtaken, and there is nothing you can do to stop it if it